So in this class, we are going to talk about what are called tire models. Very short introduction to tire models. We'll go over and look at what happens in the combined cornering and slip, a simple model. And we will wind up maybe in the next class about tire models which are used for this combined slip. Now, first of all, what are tire models? This is a very important word today in vehicle dynamics, because all people who use or who are interested in vehicle dynamics, they use one software package or the other, be it Adams or Carson or whatever it is. So they are interested in the way the tire behaves. In other words, that becomes an input into the software. So they have to give to the software how, for example, slip versus longitudinal force varies, how alpha to lateral force varies, and alpha and moment varies, and so on. Right? These graphs have to be input. Either you can give it as a lookup table, which some of the softwares accept it as lookup tables, or through formula, okay, or through a formula which is called as a model. So a formula which links this slip, okay. For example, if I write F, it can be Fx, Fy, Fz, whatever it is, as a function of, say, let's say that it's longitudinal force Fx as a function of kappa or sigma, my slip, then it can be the normal force Fz, which is acting, right? So that camber angle, if it has an effect, for example, in Fy it has an effect. So if it's Fy, camber angle will have an effect, and so on. Okay. So in other words, this tire model is nothing but a mathematical equation, right? There are a number of ways in which these mathematical equations are arrived at. The easiest of them, is to do a curve fitting, okay, which we would call as empirical equations. For example, I can determine these curves using experiments. For example, it can be kappa versus Fx, and then fit an equation to this curve. The foremost tire model used extensively by people is what is called as the magic formula tire model. You can use TI or TY or whatever you want, but the magic formula tire model is one of the most important models used today in vehicle dynamics community. There are other models. We will see that maybe a very short introduction to other tire models later. Let's look at magic formula model, and let's look at how for longitudinal force magic formula model is used. Okay, you will get a feel of it. Then we will look at the combined slip.
You'll have a model for every single parameter, and putting it all together, you'll have a...
No. Wait. It's not that every single parameter. Give me 2 minutes. Let me explain this. First of all, what is magic formula? You may be wondering what is magic formula. That's the first, question, right? A bit of a history. This is one of the greatest contribution of Professor Paseka, who's the forerunner in the whole of tire mechanics, and he has a very interesting book which I've already pointed it out. And he with Volvo company, Mr. Becker of Volvo company, they together, okay, in 1987, around that 1987, they put up this formula, okay, initially called as Paseka tire model or Sometimes later it was called as magic formula, tire model, and so on. 87 to 89, this was, there were 2 or 3 papers in SAE which actually formed the basis or laid the foundation. Later in 1993, this model was adopted by Michelin tire company, and they came up with a modified version of it. And they call this as magic formula model or magic formula model using an empirical technique. After this, this tire model has undergone so many changes. There are so many versions, okay, up to 2006. There's a 2006 version. We are not going to look at every version. You know, it's a huge topic. I refer to the book of Paseka on this. We will only go back to the original paper and just look at the philosophy of how this was done. Okay, that's what we're going to do. But before we go further, what is this magic formula? Why is it called magic formula? A magic formula is because this formula, which I'm going to write down now, can be used for all the 3 curves. In other words, the frame or the form of the equation is the same, okay, which I can write down this as y is equal to d sine c arc tan. Don't worry about how, you know, why this is so complex. That we will see it in a minute, how this came about. Bx minus e into, bx minus e into bx minus r tan bx. Okay. This has undergone a lot of changes. Let's first stick to this. Now, this formula, this is the fundamental form with some modifications, we'll see that, is used for all the 3 cases. If I substitute now x for kappa, my slip, in this form, okay, then I would get fx. If I now substitute this for alpha here, okay, slip, then I would get fy. Right? The same way I will get, if I substitute for x the slip angle, then I would get m, and so on. Okay? So these 3 cases are the ones which are, which I would say, these are the 3 cases which are important. There are other things that are there, like turn slip. Let's now concentrate on these 3. So you will get, you have the same form. Doesn't mean that you'll have the same values. Okay, it doesn't mean that you have the same values. Okay, these values of D, C, B, and E, what they are, we'll see in a minute. How did they come here? Why is that this is so complex? We'll see that. But these values, these are values which vary with, of course, Fz, the normal force, and they take different forms. Right. So in a very simple term, you can say that I put down a formula and I have 3 different curves. Say, for example, I had a curve like that for moment, and then, you know, this curve is antisymmetric with respect to this, and then I have another curve which may be like that for fy. So this can be fy, suppose like kappa or alpha. Okay, this can be the fx curve, and this can be the m curve, and so on. The reference which I'm going to follow in this class is from the 1987 very first paper I said. Yeah, here it is. 87041 SAE paper. 87041. 421 is the paper which I'm going to follow for this work. And of course, after that, there are a number of papers which have come about. But this paper, this is a very fundamental paper, and this actually gives the basis for obtaining the shape. Right? So that's what we're going to follow. Fundamentally, we have 4 of them, 4 factors. Okay, C, let me put that as B, C, D, D, C, B, and E. These are the 4 things that are there. 4, I would say, constants. Constant since they depend upon F set. These are the 4 things. Now, the whole thing started with a very simple equation. Suppose, now I want to represent this in an equation form. Okay? Equation form is very easy or important if I have to do a multi-body dynamics analysis. Right? So, we'll talk about that a bit later, but just have that in mind. In other words, equations are important in order that I combine the dynamics of the vehicle with the tire-road interaction. If I have to combine them, then equations are important. Remember, when we talked about longitudinal dynamics, we're going to talk about lateral dynamics a bit later, talked about longitudinal dynamics, we were interested in the traction force. You look, okay? Fundamentally, F is equal to ma we wrote. Now, we just wrote that as F, okay? Now, if I now have to go to the next step, then that force F has to be replaced by this curve, right? Where did that force come from? From the tire. So, how did that force develop? We saw all the mechanics. If I now want to go back to that equation, okay, then I have to put down this. So, in other words, the force developed would now be a function of my kappa, right? So, in that equation, go back to the equation, in that equation, you have a traction force, and that traction force will be replaced by an equation which combines kappa and Fx. Okay, that's why mathematical form of this equation becomes important. I can find out, in fact, if you want me to get this kind of acceleration, okay, whatever you will see, you have seen a lot of advertisements. So where they would claim that 0 is to 60 in 6 seconds, or 0 to 80 in 7 seconds, or whatever it is. Okay, then I need that kind of traction force, and whether I can develop that force depends upon this equation. I have a maximum force that can be developed. Say, for example, this would of course depend upon the road and so on, Fz and so on. Okay, of course depends upon the friction characteristics. So this becomes very important. Where am I going to develop this? In other words, it also tells me whether I'm going to have the wheel spinning or locking and all those things. So in other words, that equation has more meaning, okay, when I now combine that with the interaction with the road. Clear? Okay? You would definitely know. Suppose, just to make the point very easy to understand, let me remove all this. There have been a lot of questions before as to what is this formula, why am I using it, and so on. Yes, a very experienced user after some time, this would be nothing. For a new person who gets in it, this is going to be difficult. So suppose I have a curve like this. So what's the maximum force? I know this is the maximum force, and that is the kappa. Fx versus kappa.
So what exactly is kappa here?
Kappa is our slip. We had defined 2 slips. Remember? Theoretical slip called sigma, the practical slip kappa. So that is what I am plotting here, kappa. Right? Yes, I had plotted before sigma. Right? So kappa is the slip, percentage slip if you want to call it. Clear? We had already defined that. Remember, V minus omega r and so on. Okay, go back and look at that if you have questions. questions. Now, the point is this. If I now want to develop a force, suppose you are saying that I have a vehicle, it has this kind of rolling resistance, this kind of in the tire, and if this is the kind of aerodynamic forces that are acting, and this is the mass of the vehicle and all other things. And then now you say that I want to have this kind of acceleration, I want to have 0 to 60 in 6 seconds, so you get an acceleration. Okay. First of all, that acceleration would result in a requirement for a force, and that has to be realizable. Whether it's realizable or not, this graph would say. Suppose I require a force like that, obviously that force won't be realized. If right, so that would be a problem. Right. Yes.
So while plotting this curve, all the other parameters on which fx will be depending on will be constant.
Yes, that's a good question. We will. So in other words, this parameter is this curve a constant? What are the other parameters? That's what I wrote first. Suppose I change fz. Okay, this curve would change. Okay, this becomes very important. For example, when I brake, or when I remember we had that redistribution. When I brake or when I accelerate, then fz changes. So that becomes an important question. So can I have only one curve? Does it not affect? Is this curve not affected by fz? Even if you say that mu is independent of pressure, we know that this is f, and that would depend upon mu, and so it should depend upon fz and so on. Right, precisely. So this curve cannot be one curve, so it has to depend upon fz. Okay. Now, then there can be a series of curves. Right. It's a function of fz. For example, if you look at cornering, you go to see later, okay, maybe from the next topic, that there is my cornering forces Fy becomes important, okay, and its effect on the vehicle dynamics, we will see it. Now, here again there is going to be a load transfer due to the roll, right, and again there is going to be a change of these forces with respect to Fy and so on. Right. So when I now calculate it, for example, when I do a calculation, I have to take into account this kind of transfer of loads. So in other words, if I have to calculate Fx or Fy, then I should have an equation, okay, which would now give me a new Fy or a new Fx because of the load transfer. I have to shift from one curve to the other curve when you have Fz. So in other words, this equation d, c, b, e and so on should be a function of Fz. Should be a function of Fz, and that's what we are going to see. Hold on to your questions. Let me finish this, okay? Then we will look at your questions. I know that's why I'm going a bit slow. Okay, people who know this, experienced users, bear with me. I'll develop this slowly. Okay. Now let us now get into this equation. How did you get this equation? Looks very complex. Some arc, tan, sine, this, that, B, C, D, E. Okay, that's the genius of these people who worked on it, right? So what they did initially was to see whether this whole thing can be given by a very simple formula. Okay. Now I'm going to modify this. Please wait for me for a minute. So they wanted to know whether they can just put sine of bx, say d sine bx. They first wanted to do this. This didn't work. So actually, because let's get back to all the three curves, you will see why it's not going to be easy to work. Okay, one curve looks like this. Yeah, it looks very much like a sine picture. The other curve looks like this. And the third curve, let's say that it looks like that. Accordingly, you have kappa and alpha that you know already. Fx, Fy, yeah. So this was not working. The sine curve is not working. Okay, it does not work. So I had to now accommodate that what is there in the sine, okay, or in other words, I have to adjust what is there inside the brackets in the sine. Okay, So if you now look at this curve, for example, this looks as if it is an elongated sine. An elongated sine. Okay, right? So how do I adjust that? And I want a function which is elongated in the x direction, right? Okay. So what is a function which is elongated? Arctan is a function which is elongated. Or in other words, if you now plot an arctan curve, extensively used in so many applications in mathematics, x versus y, the curve looks something like this. Sorry. I mean, okay. Like this. Right? It asymptotically converges to a value. What is that value? Pi by 2. Right? So, if I now, that's the first thing. So, this asymptotically converges to a value, pi by 2. The same thing here, it's minus pi by 2 and so on. So, that's an elongated curve. Right? So, I will now replace, if I replace what is there instead of x, I would replace that value, okay, so that I would now put this as y is equal to d sine arctan bx. Okay, okay, that's a. So let me introduce one more term here. Okay, arctan bx. Then I would elongate it. But the amount of elongation I have to now control. Here it is not very much elongated. Here it is elongated more, and then here it is elongated less, and so on. This looks like a sinusoid with a lesser elongation, larger elongation. Okay, very short elongation. So I have to now adjust this elongation. How do I adjust that elongation? By multiplying it with a constant called c. Right. So what am I doing? I am looking at this graph and looking at mathematical expressions for which can actually model this graph and adjusting this equation. That's all I'm doing. Right. Obviously, right now you can immediately tell me what should be the maximum value of y. This is purely a graph. You know, this is, I'm just fitting that. So what is the maximum value of y is equal to d, obviously. So this should be the value of b. Okay. So C in fact gives me that kind of the shape, okay, how elongated it is, how sharp it is, and so on. Because it sort of has an ability to shrink the frequency, if I can call it, of, don't get confused with that word frequency, of the sine. Right? Okay. Now, I'm not still happy with it because this has some, look at these two graphs, this has some peculiarity as to how actually it rises up. Apart from the slope, it is there, it has a curve. Okay? I now introduce into this equation or change this form of the equation in order to introduce that variation. Okay? Let me call that as the factor called, sorry, E. Okay? So that I will now write down this expression to be, okay, slightly vary it and write down this equation to be y is equal to d sine, I'm going to keep all that constant, arctan, okay, b, instead of x, I'm going to introduce that phi, a quantity called phi, okay, and phi is equal to 1 minus e into x plus e by b into arctan bx. This e, in other words, what I have done is I have introduced this e, which actually changes the curvature at this place. Now, without confusing C and D, let me call this C as a shape factor because it gives the shape, and E as a curvature factor. Okay. Now, substitute that into this expression for phi. Okay. Rewrite this expression. Rewrite this expression. What do you get? You get an expression which is written there. Okay. So, in other words, what I do is to use the property of arctan, use the property of sine, and use the property of combination, okay, and then get a shape which can be now adjusted. I have now 4 values which can be adjusted. Okay. Let me give some names to it. Let me call B as a stiffness factor. B as a stiffness factor. We'll see that stiffness factor is not actually the stiffness. Okay, stiffness factor. C as the shape factor. Right? And D is the peak force. That's we had already seen. D sine of something, sine, the maximum sine value is equal to 1. So, peak force D, and E is the curvature factor. Why is it called curvature factor? Because if I now vary the value of E, okay, suppose this is the curve which is E is equal to 0, then depending upon the value with if whether E is between 0 to 1 or E is equal to minus, there is the curvature here would vary.
So, when we are using this magic formula, the form of the structure of the formula remains the same.
Yes.
So, our real job would be in relating all the coefficients as a function of your slips, right? Say
Yes.
kappa, gamma.
Yes.
That
Yes.
is what you would feed to your class.
Yes. So I am first establishing this formula, which by tweaking these values, I can get whatever be the shape. Period. Right. Now, I have to introduce some modifications to this, further modifications. Is this clear? Any questions? Yes.
Now, BCD are going to take care of all the other factors that contribute to FX, right? Like including FI and FC.
Yes, I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. How is FZ introduced? There are a lot of things that are introduced now. In other words, yeah, I understand the question. First, Fy. Already I have told you that Fy is affected by Pleister. I have told you that Fy is affected by conicity. I have told you that Fy is affected by camber. Now the question is what happened to all that? Right? Okay. Now what do I do? What can I do? Should I look at this carefully? Look at the question carefully. Now, what is the question? That I have to introduce a force when slip angle is equal to 0. Okay. So in other words, I have to introduce a force. In other words, it simply means that, let's take Fy. It simply means that this curve should not pass through 0. Origin. Fantastic. So it has to pass through something like that. Okay, it's an exaggerated, no, it won't be so high, but just. So, in other words, I have to shift Y. Conicity the other way. So, I have to shift X and so on. Okay. So, I am going to introduce a horizontal and a vertical shift. Okay, in order to take care of the conicity and Pleister. Okay, I'm going to shift that curve. So let me call that as SV, and yes, is it? Yes.
This is only for Fy, no, sir. Pleister and conicity.
Yeah, these values would, yes, of course. When we talk about conicity and Pleister, we are looking at the values of.
But
of this.
Formula is unique.
This formula is unique, so you can adjust this SV and SH, of course. Right? You can adjust this formula for SV and SH. Yes, when I said Fy, obviously we're talking about coincident Pleistocene. So let me redraw that graph very cleanly. Let me call that as Y. And let me call that as X. Just introduce this small x and small y. And let me call that as SV. Let me call that as SH. Okay? And let me say that this equation is actually, that's the curve, and the whole curve as well as x-axis I am shifting, so that I would write x to be x plus sh and y to be y of x plus sv. Okay. So I have introduced two factors. Right. Okay. Camber will wait for a minute. But our friend here is in a hurry. What happens to Fz? Right. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to introduce all these factors as a function of Fz. Okay? Before that is one question. What is actually the slope? The slope of this curve is very important, the initial slope of the curve. So all safe drivers, okay, drive in this linear range. Okay, so what is the slope of this curve? Look at that. What is the slope? Dy by dx. Differentiate it.
Fx by
Yeah, dy by dx, b cos, okay, whatever is inside, then put arctan as 1 by 1 plus x squared, right, and so on, okay, and then put x is equal to 0. So you'll get that's equal to b c d. So dy by dx at x is equal to 0 would now become bcd. So bcd is the initial slope of the curve. Okay. Again, don't get confused. I am not getting this curve from these equations. Okay, I have got already this curve. For example, I can get this from an analytical formula. I can get this from finite element. And more importantly, I can get this curve from experiments. So I've got the curve with me. I'm only fitting an equation. Right. Fine. So the my next job is to find out how I'm going to express these factors B, C, D, and so on.
You just said that you want to express BCD as a function of Fz, but Fz itself depends on the slip angles alpha.
No,
pi.
Fz is a normal force. It depends upon, see, it varies depending upon how, what is the way you do a maneuver, or how severe is your cornering. Okay.
All that would manifest in terms of the slip angles. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that is why I am now expressing this. Okay. In other words, as I told you, I have a number of graphs here, and I want to express all these graphs in terms of one equation.
So, and Fy and Fx are also dependent on each other, right?
No. We are not like, that's a good question. So we are right now looking at, okay, independent cornering. This equation now, that's what I said right in the beginning. We are now looking at cornering and, cornering separately and braking separately. I have not come yet to combine cornering and braking. Okay, we will develop first a simple mathematical model in order to say that, okay, what it is, or in order to enumerate what are the things that act when I have combined cornering and braking, and then we will indicate how it is done. But even today, most people do only, they don't do combined cornering and braking, and all these formulas that are used even today are only for a decoupled longitudinal force and a decoupled, okay, cornering forces, right? So, yeah.
Why are we interested only on kappa and slip angle? Is it because they are the only parameters? that
Yes,
we can
of course,
calculate?
of course. So these are the parameters ultimately I'm finding out. Why are we interested? Ultimately, we are going to find out what is kappa, what is the slip, and so on. Right. Now, so what am I doing? I'm as been with repeated questions on FZ. So I'm going to write this as a quadratic equation A1 FZ squared plus A2 FZ.
How can we say B, C, D are independent of X? They might also be dependent on
No,
X.
no, no, no. I am no, no, no. BCD is the when I said B into C into D, that is the initial slope. Okay, that's all I'm saying. It is the initial slope. Dy by dx at x is equal to 0 is BCD. They don't depend upon x, y, z. Okay, that is the initial slope. Now, these are the parameters. Let me reiterate. These are the parameters which gives the slope of the curve, right? Now, this curve, that's point number one, most important point. This curve depends upon Fz. I've repeatedly said this, and I'm going to write that, right? So, D is equal to A1 Fz squared plus A2 Fz, and E is equal to A6 Fz squared plus A7 Fz plus A8. BCD, the initial curve, is A3 Fz squared plus A4 Fz divided by e power A5 Fz. And C, okay, these are initial curves, then later models have changed the C. Let's stick to this first model. C is equal to 1.3 for the side force and is equal to 1.65 for braking and acceleration being symmetric, and is equal to 2.4 for self-aligning turn. Okay. So now what essentially I have done is I have shifted the onus of this curve from B, C, D and so on to A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, A7, A8 and so on. So in other words, I have now a set of parameters A1, A2, A3, okay, which would capture these curves. Okay. And all these points or all these A1 to A8 are determined from experiments. They're all determined from experiments.
And these are the only coefficients that you would feed.
Yes. So these are the coefficients of, okay, if you want the type of coefficients or how it would be, so you can say that, for example, Fy A1 would be minus 22.1. Please note that it is not necessarily positive, positive and negative. A2 will be 1011. Okay, this is in terms of kilonewton. Okay, there's a tendency for many people in the tire industry even today to use pound force. Okay, then this coefficients would be accordingly adjusted. Okay. And for A9, we will have A9, we will see how this comes. Then we will have properties for A9, A10 and so on. So A9 and A10 and other things which we are going to see now in a minute, we will then give the values, take care of the camber aspects for Fy. Okay, we said that the camber gives you a camber thrust, or in other words, that gives you an Fy. Okay, so that would again be a shift factor. Okay, and that is the shift factor is given by due to camber is given by horizontal shift factor is for the camber is given by A9 gamma, and okay, gamma is the camber angle. And the delta B, change in stiffness, okay, that is also obtained as delta B, okay, with change in delta B gamma. Okay. Again, there are a number of parameters. Let's not, or else I'll confuse you. This is, I can put down 9, 10. 9, 10, 11, 12. There's another 13, okay, which again, a factor for E and so on. Let's not worry about it so that I don't confuse you. Let me summarize what all we said, okay. So in other words, what we said is that we have an experimental curve, and the experimental curve has to be input into my, say for example, into my mathematical model of the whole vehicle, okay, because I am interested there to determine the forces. Okay, I want to know whether my tire would develop that forces. If it develops the force, what would be the slip angle, or what would be the slip at which these forces will be developed? Where do I sit actually in that curve, and so on? Okay, and that I have to meaningfully take into account what is the change in the FZ values or the normal forces that are acting due to the dynamics. Okay, so in order to take into account all that, I have an experimental curve, okay, and then this experimental curve is fitted by means of an equation, okay, which has so many values, A1 to A13, right? So these are determined. This is not sacrosanct. This is for one tire. If I have another tire, these values will be different. In fact, I don't have time, but if you're interested, we will discuss it later as to how to fit this. You know, it's very important that I get some unique parameters for this formula. So fitting this becomes very important. I had a student who worked on this, and so there is a way of fitting this, right? How do I get? So what do you get? I get a curve. Then how do I get from this? I get a curve, not one curve. I have to change FZ. I'll get a series of curves. I have to change gamma. I'll get a series of curves. So with all these curves, now I have to fit A1 to A13. There are special softwares available for it, and there's quite an amount of research to. It's an optimization problem that can be used in order to fit A1 to A13. Yes.
Definition of DEBCD changes for FX?
No. Definitions do not change. Definitions do not change. They are all, the form of this is the same. Okay, the definitions do not change. The values of A1 to A12 would
We
change.
accounted for light steer and conicity by
By
introducing
shifting.
an offset in the graph.
Yes,
But
yes.
for camber, what exactly have we done?
Camber, the same thing. This is a shift, and I call this as delta SH. This is a shift. The same way I'm going to shift. Okay, that's the shifts here.
Sir, why you are not considering the mu coefficient of friction?
Yes, coefficient of friction automatically comes in because I am not interested in mu. Okay, if I now, that's exactly what I said right in the beginning of the class. So if I now replace fx, for example, by a normalized fx by fz curve, people tend to call this as a mu curve. Okay, here I am plotting fx directly. Right. So it's also important, that brings out an important topic as to what is this, what is the role of friction? Okay, how do people determine this graph, this curve? There are two ways in which they determine this curve. One is by doing an experiment in the road, okay, by a tractor trailer. For example, TNO in Delft, in Netherlands, they have a facility to determine this by means of, by taking the tire to the road and finding out this value. But many people, what they do is to do an indoor test. Okay, they do an indoor test and find out, they have a machine on which they have a surface on which this tire is mounted, okay, and then they have facility to measure these forces and the slip angle and so on, and they determine this in the laboratory. Okay, there your question of surface becomes important, because the question is asking is how do you characterize mu? Okay, so the surface becomes important. So people have various surfaces if they have to do this in the laboratory. Okay, these surfaces are I mean, there's a big topic, and these surfaces are actually do have a roughness factor which would simulate or hold good even if you have to go, or these equations would hold good even if you have to do it in the road. Okay, so they mount the tire, and maybe next class we will see this. So they mount a tire, okay, on a spindle, and they have a flat surface, okay, which is the surface may be moving, right, and then they measure forces, slip, and so on in the laboratory scale. There are many tire companies who have this kind of facilities in order to determine Fx, Fy, and other factors.
Effects with mu, would the curve be the same?
No, because it would depend on see, first of all, yeah, or to a certain extent, I would say that it's a good question. That's why people in those days they used to do what they used to do is to just normalize this curve and then plot Fx by Fz. Okay, and then have the kappa value, okay, and then have this curve, and they say that this normalized curve is fine. But then this brings out a very important topic on friction itself, the friction coefficient itself. Can this curve be like this? So there have been a lot of work, as I told you before, as to how actually friction works between the road and the tire. It's a big topic by itself. So this depends upon, as I said, on the not only the pressure, contact pressure, but what is called as the V, slip, and so on. If you want to model in a very detailed fashion the tire behavior, then you have to go into that friction models.
No, sir, but all the systems that we have are based on this, right? We try to get the slip so that the maximum force will come. Now, the mu in the road and the test conditions are totally different, right?
Absolutely. That is exactly what he was asking. What happens when there is a friction coefficient that's different? So you have to be careful. Yes, the question is, if I do it indoor, okay, won't I get a different curve than if I do it outdoor in the road? Because the road characteristics are different. Absolutely. There will be a difference between the two, okay, whether you do it indoor or whether you do it outdoor in test. In fact, there's a paper, if I remember right, in Tire Science and Technology by Continental Tires, which actually bring out and tell you what are all the differences, okay, on friction coefficients and so on. So there will be, but the theory is such that the differences are not very high. It also depends upon the enveloping characteristics of the tire, okay. So we would say that there would be a difference, but for all practical purposes, people use the data which is generated on this kind of rough paper or sandpaper or whatever you want to call it. Okay, that is the type of thing that's used in order to get this data. Okay. Yes. Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Where are the characteristics of tires incorporated into the BCD?
Yes. I am not looking at the tire design here, tire characteristics. I am looking at the final result. In other words, the question is, how does the tire characteristics affect this? For example, if I change the compound, or if I change the sidewall profile, if I change anything in the belt angles, where is it reflected here? That's a question. It is not reflected here. This is for a tire. A given tire, you're doing an experiment.
But there will be some formula that will link A1 to all the...
Absolutely. Go and look at the paper which we published. It's a very interesting question. In fact, there's a paper, I and my student, we published a paper on how to link. It's a very good question. I'm very happy because it gives importance to the paper which we had written. So how A1, for example, is affected by design. Okay, if I remember right, to the next class, I will give you the reference of the paper where we have linked. It's a very important question because ultimately the tire manufacturer wants to know, okay, how he has to change the design in order that he would vary A1 and so on. So there is a link between this and the characters. In fact, you'll be interested to know that these are all affected by the by inflation pressure has a role to play as well, okay, and a lot of design parameters. We will postpone that till the next class.